There is a sentence that has been spoken to more struggling people than almost any other sentence in the last 30 years. It has been said to people with cancer, to people who were broke, to people who had just lost someone, to people sitting in their car, crying before work because they did not know how they were going to make rent. The sentence is this: you attracted this into your life. I need you to hold that sentence while I show you something, because by the end of this video, you are not just going to understand why the law of attraction is false. You are going to understand something darker than that. You are going to understand exactly how it was engineered to feel true, and who benefits when you believe it. The law of attraction is a $30 billion industry. I want you to think about that number for a moment. $30 billion. That is larger than the GDP of most countries. It is built on books, courses, seminars, apps, coaches, and content that all deliver the same core message: that your external reality is a direct reflection of your internal thoughts. That if you visualize wealth, wealth comes. That if you think positive thoughts with enough conviction and frequency, the universe will rearrange itself to match them. And here's the question that nobody in that industry ever wants you to ask. If the law of attraction works, if positive thinking genuinely determines material outcomes, then why are the people selling it the only ones consistently getting rich from it? Hold that question. I am going to come back to it. But first, I need to show you something about your own brain, because that is where this story actually begins. You have a system in your brain called the reticular activating system. It is a cluster of neurons at the base of your brainstem that acts as a filter for the approximately 11 million pieces of information your senses receive every second. Your conscious mind can only process about 40 of those pieces at a time. The reticular activating system decides which 40 you notice, and it is heavily influenced by what you are focused on. This is why, when you learn a new word, you suddenly hear it everywhere. Why, when you decide to buy a specific car, you start seeing that car on every road. The cars were always there. Your filter just was not tuned to them. This is a real, documented neurological phenomenon. It is called selective attention. The law of attraction industry took this legitimate neuroscience, stripped out the mechanism, and replaced it with magic. They took a filter and called it a magnet. They took attention and called it manifestation. And the reason that substitution was so effective is that the results feel identical from the inside. You start visualizing success. You start noticing opportunities you were missing before. Things begin to align, and you believe the universe responded. When what actually happened is your reticular activating system started filtering for the signal you asked it to find. The LOA industry did not invent a new spiritual law. It monetized a cognitive filter and sold it back to you as a hotline to the universe. But that is not the dark part yet. The dark part is what happens when the technique does not work. Because for the vast majority of people who try it, and the industry's own retention data shows this, which is why they need constant new customers, it does not produce the promised results. And the LOA framework has a ready explanation for every failure. An explanation that the industry designed with surgical, psychological precision. You did not manifest your desire because you did not believe hard enough, because your vibration was not high enough, because you had unconscious negative thoughts that canceled out the positive ones, because your gratitude was not genuine, because some part of you did not truly feel worthy of what you were asking for. Do you see what just happened there? The framework is unfalsifiable. When it works, it proves the law of attraction. When it fails, it proves your inadequacy. The product is never at fault. You are always at fault. And the solution, always, inevitably, is more of the product. More courses, more coaching, more visualization, more alignment, more money flowing from the person who is struggling toward the person who is already wealthy. This is not an accident of design. This is the design. There is a psychological concept called the illusion of control. It is one of the most well-documented cognitive biases in experimental psychology. Human beings have a deep, neurologically wired need to believe that their actions influence outcomes, even when the outcomes are random. In studies, People will develop elaborate theories about how they are influencing the results of coin flips. They will press elevator buttons repeatedly, as if frequency affects speed. They will blow on dice before rolling them. The need for control is not irrational. In an uncertain world, believing you have agency over outcomes is psychologically protective. It reduces anxiety. It motivates action. It is, in most contexts, adaptive. The LOA industry exploited this need with extraordinary precision. It offered people who were facing genuinely uncontrollable circumstances, illness, poverty, systemic disadvantage. The most psychologically seductive thing you can offer a person in that situation. A mechanism, a switch, a reason to believe that if they just did the right internal work, the external chaos would resolve. And when it did not resolve, the illusion of control became a trap. Because now the failure was not the result of a random, indifferent universe or a structurally unjust system. The failure was the result of something the person did wrong. Internally, in their own mind. This is the moment where the law of attraction stops being self-help and becomes something that psychologists have a clinical name for. It is called spiritual bypassing. The term was coined by psychologist John Wellwood in 1984. It describes the use of spiritual frameworks to avoid confronting genuine psychological wounds, legitimate external problems, or systemic injustice. The spiritual practice becomes a way of bypassing reality rather than engaging it. A person in an abusive relationship is told to raise their vibration rather than leave. A person in poverty is told their scarcity mindset is the problem, rather than the wage structure they are working within. A person with depression is told their negative thoughts are creating their reality, rather than that they have a neurochemical condition that requires treatment. The LOA industry does not just fail these people. It actively harms them. It takes their legitimate pain, tells them it is their fault, charges them for the privilege of that accusation, and sends them away believing that the next course, the next coach, the next level of commitment will be the thing that finally makes it work. Now I want to close the loop I opened at the beginning of this video. The question about who gets rich. There is a reason the law of attraction spreads most effectively among people who are economically anxious, socially isolated, or in the middle of a genuine crisis. These are not the easiest people to sell to in most markets, but they are the most vulnerable to a specific psychological hook. In behavioral economics, there is a phenomenon called lottery psychology. Studies consistently show that people purchase lottery tickets in higher volumes not when they are comfortable, but when they are desperate. When the legitimate pathways to the outcome they need feel closed. When the gap between where they are and where they need to be seems impossible to close through conventional means. In that gap, the irrational bet becomes psychologically rational. It is the only available door that feels like it opens. The law of attraction is a lottery ticket that never expires. It costs more than a lottery ticket. It pays out far less. And unlike a lottery ticket, it comes with a community, an identity, a language, and a framework that makes leaving feel like giving up on yourself. The $30 billion is not made from people who are thriving. It is made from people who are desperate enough to believe that the problem is inside their own mind, and who have been given an industry-designed reason to keep spending rather than stop and ask why the product has not delivered in 5 years of trying. I said at the beginning that this video was going to end with a disturbing revelation, rather than a solution. Here it is. The law of attraction became a $30 billion industry, not in spite of the fact that it does not work for most people. It became a $30 billion industry because of it. A product that worked would create satisfied customers who stopped buying. A product that fails in a way that always implicates the buyer creates customers who never stop, who always need the next level, who always have one more belief to clear, one more block to release, one more program to complete before the breakthrough arrives. The most watched self-help content on YouTube right now tells people that if they are poor, sick, or unhappy, it is because their thoughts were not positive enough. That is not spirituality. It is not self-improvement. It is the most sophisticated, victim-blaming machine ever constructed. And it is running, at scale, on the most psychologically vulnerable people in the world. The people selling it know exactly what they are doing. The question that should disturb you, the one I will leave you with, is not whether you believed it, Millions of intelligent people believed it. The question is, what else, right now, is using the same psychological architecture on you without the spiritual packaging? What other framework in your life has built unfalsifiability into its design, so that when it fails, you are always the reason, and the solution is always more of it? Put your answer in the comments if you are willing to be honest. Because that question, if you take it seriously, is worth more than anything the law of attraction ever promised you.